Imagine this, just for a second. You're behind the wheel, cruising down a highway, maybe one of those brand new expressways. You can feel the engine's power, the wind is rushing by, and you are, just making incredible time. You feel totally in control.
Mm.
But then up ahead, you see it, a traffic signal, and it's turning red. Now be honest, what's your immediate instinct? Do you slam on the brakes and wait patiently? Do you maybe speed up, try to thread the needle before it turns solid red? Or do you just, stop?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It seems so mundane, right? A red light, an amber light, a green light. But what if I told you that this simple mechanical device isn't just about traffic control? What if it's actually the perfect metaphor for the survival of the entire human race?
It sounds a bit dramatic when you put it that way, but you are absolutely on the money. It is the perfect metaphor. In fact, it's pretty much the core philosophy of the entire discipline we're diving into today. Oh yeah, it's a concept that the Australian geographer Griffith Taylor called Neo-determinism, or maybe more simply, the middle path. It's this uncomfortable truth that humanity, for all our arrogance, for all our satellites and AI and skyscrapers, we cannot just have a free run on this planet without facing some catastrophic accidents.
Accidents like global warming, ozone depletion, receding glaciers, basically the stuff that keeps us up at night.
Exactly. The traffic light tells us when to stop, when to get set, and when to go. And if we ignore the red light of nature, if you think we can just speed through the intersection because we're in a hurry to develop, we crash. It's really that simple.
Well, buckle up, everyone, because today we are not just talking about traffic rules. We are unpacking the very relationship between human beings and the planet we call home. Welcome to a special edition of the Deep Dive, and this one is specifically curated for the Simplified UPSC by PPP community.
It's fantastic to be here. And for all of you learners tuning in, especially those of you who are grinding away to crack the UPSC, I just want to set the stage properly. This is not going to be just a textbook reading.
Oh, definitely not.
We aren't just going to recite definitions. I mean, you have books for that.
No, absolutely not. What we're doing is a strategic breakdown. We're taking the NCERT Class 12 Human Geography, Chapter 1, and we are, ripping it apart to find the logic, the arguments, and most importantly, the previous year question or PYQ linkages.
Right.
Because, let's be real, you aren't here to become a geography professor. You're here to write a killer answer that gets you on that final merit list.
That is the ultimate goal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding the concept is one thing, but knowing how to apply something like neo-determinism to a GS3 question on disaster management or a GS1 question on poverty, that is where the marks are hidden.
Precisely. So before we dive into these traffic lights of civilization, I do have a humble request for everyone listening. If you find value in this deep dive, if this helps you clarify these massive concepts, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps keep these deep dives coming. And if you are capable, and only if you are, please consider supporting Simplified UPSC by PPP on Patreon.
Yes, and a massive shout out and a huge thank you to all of our current supporters. You folks are the fuel in our tank. You genuinely make this content creation possible. We couldn't do it without you.
And hey, don't forget about the resources. We have free notes with practice PYQs available right now on our public Telegram channel. Go grab them. But for the really serious learners out there who want the full arsenal, I'm talking about the private Telegram library with access to all the videos in this series, organized premium notes, extra PYQs, and model mains answers. You need to DM us on the public channel to join.
And those model answers are gold. I mean, they're just invaluable for understanding how to structure your thoughts. It's one thing to know the material. It's a whole different ballgame to present it effectively in 150 or 250 words.
They really are. So like the video, leave a valuable comment, lets us know what clicked for you, and let's get into the roadmap. Today's mission is to decode NCERT Class 12, Human Geography, Chapter 1. We're going to cover the definition of the discipline, that eternal war between nature and man, the three big philosophies, determinism, possibilism, and of course that traffic light, neo-determinism.
And then we'll wrap up by looking at how the subject itself has evolved through what the text calls the corridors of time. This is really the history of the subject from its early days in colonial exploration right up to the modern postmodernism era.
Okay, let's start with the absolute basics. Section 1, defining the indefinable. What on earth is human geography? Because, to be honest, when I was in school, geography just meant memorizing capitals and coloring in maps. It felt very physical. Mountains, rivers, soil types.
That's a very common perception. And it actually leads right into this core dichotomy or dualism in the field that the NCERT text highlights right at the beginning. You have physical geography, which is the study of nature landforms, climate, water, Soil, you could call that the stage.
Okay, the stage.
And then you have human geography, which is the study of life forms, specifically us. Our cultures, our economies, our populations, that's the play happening on the stage.
And for a long, long time, scholars argued about this, didn't they? It was like a turf war. Is geography a law-making science like physics? Or is it more of a descriptive subject like history? Should we be studying regions or should we be studying systems?
It was a massive intellectual debate that went on for decades. But here's the expert take, and the text supports this completely. This dichotomy is actually invalid. It's a false choice. You can't separate them.
It's not an either.
Not at all. Nature and humans are so intricately intertwined that trying to study one without the other is like, I don't know, trying to study the mind without the body. It just doesn't work.
The source material uses some really cool metaphors for this. It talks about how we anthropomorphize nature, how we give it human traits. We talk about the face of the earth.
Exactly. Or we talk about the eye of the storm,
The mouth of river.
the snout of the glacier. And think about our own creations, our infrastructure. We call road and rail networks the arteries of circulation.
That's such a great image. It implies that if those arteries get clogged, like a massive traffic jam in Mumbai or Delhi, the body, which is the society or the economy, suffers a kind of heart attack.
Precisely. The text asks a really fundamental question. Can we separate nature and human when they're so intricately intertwined? And the answer it gives is a resounding no. You just can't. You can't understand a city, which is a human creation, without understanding the land it sits on, the water source it relies on, and the climate that dictates its architecture.
So, if they are inseparable, how do the big scholars define human geography? The text gives us the big three, Ratzel, Semple, and Vidal de la Blache. Now, I know definitions can be dry, and usually students just skip over them. But for a UPSC aspirant, these aren't just definitions. They are like pure fodder for introductions and mains answers, right?
Absolutely, 100%. You need to be able to quote these correctly to show you have depth of understanding. If you get a question on the scope of human geography, dropping Ratzel or Semple in that first paragraph immediately sets you apart from the candidate who just writes a generic sentence.
Okay, so let's start with Friedrich Ratzel.
Okay, so Ratzel, he says, human geography is the synthetic study of relationship between human societies and Earth's surface.
The key word there has to be synthetic, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Synthesis. It's about putting things together. Ratzel isn't just analyzing the individual parts like here is a rock and over there is a person. He's synthesizing the relationship. It's the chemistry between the two.
Yeah. Okay, so synthesis, Ratzel, got it. Next up is Ellen-C. Semple. She says, human geography is the study of the changing relationship between the unresting man and the unstable earth. I have to say, I love that phrasing. Unresting man and unstable earth. It sounds like the title of an epic novel.
It is very poetic, I agree. But don't let the poetry distract you from the academic weight of it. The key word here is dynamism. Notice she doesn't just say man and earth, she says unresting.
Right.
Humans are ambitious, we migrate, we build, we destroy, we never ever sit still. And the earth. It's unstable.
Which is so true. We think of the ground beneath our feet as solid, but it's not. You have plate tectonics, erosion, climate cycles. It's constantly changing.
Exactly. So what Semple is emphasizing is that neither side of this equation is static. The relationship is dynamic. It is always in flux. If you're writing an answer about, say, climate change or migration, Semple's definition is perfect because it highlights that change is the only constant in this relationship.
So Ratzel's synthesis, Semple is dynamism, and the third one is the French geographer Paul Vidal de la Blache.
Yes, and Blache offers a definition that's a little bit more complex. He says it is a conception resulting from a more synthetic knowledge of the physical laws governing our Earth and of the relations between the living beings which inhabit it.
That is a bit of a mouthful.
It is. But let's break it down. Look at what he's doing. He is acknowledging the physical laws. Gravity, thermodynamics, climate patterns. He respects the science.
Okay.
But he centers the relations between living beings. It's a very holistic approach. What he's really saying is you need to know the laws of the Earth to truly understand the people living on it. You can't understand, for example, the Inuit lifestyle without understanding the laws of thermodynamics and heat conservation.
So we have synthesis, dynamism, and a holistic view that includes physical laws. These definitions really set the stage for the whole drama of the subject. And it really is a drama, isn't it? The story of humans and nature. It feels like a constant power struggle.
It is the ultimate power struggle. And in the history of geography, it plays out in 3 acts. We call these the philosophies of human geography.
Okay, let's go to Act 1, Section 2. The pendulum swing. We're starting with something called environmental determinism.
This is the very early stage of human history. Act 1. Picture this. Technology is very, very low. Social development is primitive.
So we're talking about early hunter-gatherers, or maybe even today, some of the uncontacted tribes in the Amazon or the Andamans.
Yes, that's a perfect modern example. In this stage, humans are essentially afraid of nature. They listen to nature. They adapt to its dictates. They worship it. Think about the Vedas or early pagan religions. They worship the sun, the rain, the fire, the river. Now, why did they do that?
Because those things were terrifyingly powerful. If it didn't rain, you starved. If the river flooded, you drowned. If the sun was too hot, you died of thirst. You had no air conditioning, no dams, no modern irrigation.
Exactly. The core concept here is Mother Nature. Nature is the master. Humans are the slaves. Nature determines everything about human life, what you eat, what you wear, where you live, and how you die. This is called environmental determinism. The text calls it the naturalization of humans.
Naturalization of humans. So it's like humans are just another part of the natural landscape, like a deer or a bear. We haven't really separated ourselves from it yet.
Correct. The text uses this analogy of a naturalized human who is afraid of nature's fury. A great way to think about it today is to imagine a hiker who gets caught in a massive blizzard in the Himalayas without a GPS, without a heated tent, without any modern gear.
Oh, that's a good comparison. If I'm out there in just a t-shirt and a storm hits, I have zero control. None. I have to find a cave, hide under a rock, and just pray. Nature completely determines whether I survive or not.
That is determinism. It is a state of absolute necessity. You have no choice. And to bring it back to an Indian context, think about the Sentinelese tribe in the Andaman Islands.
The uncontacted tribe, right?
Yes. Their entire life is dictated by the monsoon cycles, the movement of fish in the sea, the availability of forest produce. They don't have supermarkets or desalination plants. If the island's ecology shifts, their entire existence shifts with it. That is environmental determinism in action today.
But then Act 2 happens. The pendulum swings completely to the other side. This is possibilism. What changes? What's the big shift?
One word: technology.
Mm-hmm.
The source material makes a very, very profound point here. It says, technology indicates the level of cultural development of society.
How so? What does that mean?
Well, think about it. Humans only develop technology after they understand natural laws. You can't just invent things by magic. The text gives some great examples. We understood the concepts of friction and heat, and that led to the discovery of fire.
Right. That makes sense.
We understood the secrets of DNA and genetics, and that enabled us to conquer so many diseases. We understood the laws of aerodynamics, and that gave us faster planes.
So it's our knowledge of nature that allows us to build the tools to sort of beat nature.
Beat might be a strong word, but certainly to loosen the shackles of the environment. And this brings us to the Kari case study in the text. This is just a perfect example of possibilism in action.
I loved this story, but I also found it, well, almost painfully modern. Let me paint the picture for the listener. Kari is a 58-year-old woman living in Trondheim, Norway. Now, Trondheim in winter is brutal. It's dark, it's freezing, there are fierce winds. By all the rules of determinism, Kari should be huddled in a cave, shivering.
But she isn't, is she?
Not even close. She drives to work in a heated car. Her tires surely have special grip for the snow and ice. She works in an office that is kept at a comfortable 23 degrees Celsius. And get this, for lunch, she eats tropical fruits like bananas and kiwis.
In the middle of an Arctic winter, flown in from thousands of miles away.
Exactly. And she networks with colleagues in New Delhi via the internet. She can take a flight to London for a meeting in the morning and be back home in time to watch her favorite TV show.
This is the humanization of nature. The harsh climate, the nature part has not changed. Trondheim is still cold, the wind still blows, but it no longer dictates Kari's life. Technology has created a buffer. It has created possibilities. Hence the term possibilism.
The text says, nature provides opportunities, and human beings make use of these. So we see imprints of human activity everywhere now. Health resorts on highlands, massive ports on coasts, satellites orbiting in space. We've essentially turned the wild earth into a cultural landscape.
And this mindset, this idea that we can do anything, that nature is just a big box of resources to be used, that became the dominant thought for a very long time. We moved from a state of necessity, which was determinism, to a state of freedom, which is possibilism.
But hold on a second. Is possibilism just a fancy way of saying we have air conditioning and central heating? Because it feels a little bit arrogant. It feels like we're saying we're gods.
That is exactly the critique.
Yeah.
And it's a valid one. Possibilism, when you take it to its extreme, it breeds arrogance. It leads to the belief that technology can fix anything. Oh, running out of water, no problem, we'll just desalinate the entire ocean. Polluted the air, we'll build giant vacuums to suck it all up.
And that arrogance led to what you called the free run. We thought we could do whatever we wanted without consequence.
And that free run led directly to accidents. The text explicitly lists them. The greenhouse effect, ozone layer depletion, global warming, receding glaciers, degrading lands. These are the car crashes of civilization.
It's so interesting you mentioned the car crash, because that brings us right back to our opening metaphor. Section 3, the middle path.
The traffic light.
This is the solution proposed by the geographer Griffith Taylor. He saw that environmental determinism was way too limiting. It said nature rules everything, which we know isn't true because, well, Kari exists. But he also saw that possibilism was too arrogant and said humans rule everything, which we know isn't true because climate change is hitting us really hard.
Exactly. So Taylor introduces this third way, Neo-determinism, or the much catchier stop-and-go determinism.
Stop and go. It's the philosophy of the Madhyam Marg, the middle path. Okay, let's imagine that traffic light again. Red means stop.
And stop means you've hit nature's limit. Every ecosystem has a carrying capacity. You cannot extract water from an aquifer faster than it recharges. That is a red light.
Then amber means get set.
It means pause. Assess the situation. Wait for nature to permit the modification. In modern terms, this is your environmental impact assessment, your EIA. Before you build the dam, you stop at the amber light and you ask, is this going to destroy the valley? What are the long-term consequences?
And finally, green means go.
But go doesn't mean floor it. It doesn't mean speed. It means proceed, but proceed within the limits. Development is allowed, but not at the cost of the environment.
So the core argument is there is no absolute necessity, like determinism said, and there is no absolute freedom, like possibilism said. We can conquer nature, yes, but only by obeying it.
We can conquer nature only by obeying it. That is such a powerful and important line. It's like sailing a boat. You can go against the wind, but only if you know how to adjust your sails to use the wind's power. You don't ignore the wind, you have to work with it.
Now, let's bring this home for the UPSC aspirant. This whole traffic light concept isn't just theory, it's the philosophical basis for sustainable development. But how do we link this to a real exam question?
This is the key. Let's look at the snippet in the source material from a General Studies Paper 3 regarding vulnerability and risk assessment for pre-disaster management, and specifically landslides in the Himalayas.
Oh, this is huge. We see this every single monsoon season. Roads getting washed away in Uttarakhand or Himachal. The whole Joshimath sinking crisis recently.
Exactly. So why does Joshimath sink? Why do these landslides keep wiping out highways? It's because we ignored the red light. The geology of the Himalayas is young, it's fragile, and it's seismically active. That is a massive red light from nature. It is screaming, stop, do not build heavy infrastructure here. Do not blast these rocks indiscriminately.
But under the influence of possibilism, we say, no, we have technology, we have reinforced concrete, we can build 4-lane highways absolutely anywhere.
And so we ignore the red light, we speed through the intersection, and we have a disaster. A landslide isn't just bad luck. It's a penalty for breaking the rules of nature. Neo-determinism would say, assess the risk. Vulnerability assessment is basically checking for the red light. If the geology says no, you don't build, or you build differently. You have to obey nature to survive it.
That is a brilliant way to connect a theoretical concept like neo-determinism to a very practical mains question on disaster management. It shows that it's not just about rocks falling, it's about a philosophical failure to respect the limits that nature has set.
Precisely. If you can write that in an exam, if you can connect Griffith Taylor's traffic light to the Chamoli disaster or the Joshimath thinking, you are showing the examiner that you understand the deep roots of the problem. You aren't just reading the news, you're analyzing it like a geographer.
But hold on, let me play devil's advocate with you here for a moment. For a developing country like India, doesn't the red light of nature often feel like a brake on economic growth? We need roads, we need power plants, we need infrastructure. Neo-determinism sounds great in a textbook, but is it just a way to keep developing countries poor?
That is the classic conflict, isn't it? The environment versus development debate. But neo-determinism argues that development, without respecting the red light, is short-term gain for long-term suicide. If you build the road and it washes away in 5 years, killing tourists and locals in the process, was that really development? Or was it just destruction disguised as progress?
That's a very sharp distinction.
Neo-determinism isn't anti-development, it's anti-destruction. It's about smart, sustainable growth that lasts.
That's a crucial distinction. It's about building things that endure. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We've seen the philosophies. Now let's walk through the corridors of time. Section 4. How did the subject of human geography itself evolve over time? Because it wasn't always this sophisticated, right? It didn't start with sustainable development.
No, not at all. It evolved right alongside human history. And we can break it down into distinct phases. For the UPSC aspirant, understanding these phases is like understanding the history of thought itself. It helps you see why we ask the questions we ask today.
Okay, first up, the colonial period.
This was the age of exploration and description. Think of the East India Company or the Spanish conquistadors. What was their primary goal?
To find stuff. Gold, spices, land, resources.
Right, trade interests. So geography in that era was all about exploration. Where is the land? What is on it? It was encyclopedic. They were essentially making inventories of the world's resources so that they could exploit them.
So it was like, here's a map, here's where the pepper grows, here's where you'll find the gold. It was very practical and very imperialistic. The map was basically a weapon of empire.
That's a perfect way to put it. It wasn't about understanding the people or the culture. It was about cataloging the loot. Then we move into the interwar period, around the 1930s. This is the era of areal differentiation.
Areal differentiation. That sounds like trying to identify the unique personality of a place.
That's a very good way to put it. The focus was entirely on uniqueness. How is region A different from region B? Why is the Gangetic Plain different from the Deccan Plateau? They wanted to understand the specific character, the unique identity of each region. It was very descriptive, almost artistic in its approach.
Okay. But then came the computers, the late 1950s and 1960s. This is the quantitative revolution.
This is when geography tried to become physics. It has serious physics envy. Geographers started using sophisticated statistical tools, laws of physics, and huge data sets. They wanted to identify mappable patterns for all kinds of human activities.
It reminds me of the movie Moneyball, where they stop looking at baseball players as people with personalities and just look at their stats. He gets on base. That's all that matters.
That is a perfect analogy. The quantitative revolution was the Moneyball era of geography. They reduced human behavior to dots on a map, flows between nodes and gravity models. They called it spatial organization.
But if you treat people like baseball stats, you miss something fundamental, don't you?
You miss everything that makes us human. You miss culture, fear, happiness, prejudice, art, religion. The text calls this phase dehumanized. And that led to a massive backlash in the 1970s. This is a critical period for UPSC aspirants to understand because 3 new schools of thought emerged that completely redefined the subject.
This is the turning point, the 1970s. The backlash against the numbers game. Let's list them. The welfare or humanistic school, the radical school, and the behavioral school. We should probably spend some time here because these terms, welfare, radical, they appear directly in the syllabus.
Yes, absolutely. Let's start with the welfare or humanistic school. This is a direct response to the cold, hard numbers. They said, who cares about the patterns of dots on a map if the people represented by those dots are suffering?
So their focus shifted to social well-being, things like housing, health, education.
Right. It brought people and their welfare back into the heart of geography. It asked questions like, who gets what, where, and how? Why do some parts of the city have excellent hospitals and beautiful parks while other parts have slums? This is the very root of what we now call social geography.
Then you had the radical school, and these guys were fiery. They used Marxian theory. Now, for the listener, this doesn't mean they were all communists. It means they used Marx's tools of analysis.
Exactly. They looked at the world through the lens of class struggle. They argued that things like poverty and deprivation weren't just natural phenomena. They weren't just bad luck. They were caused by deep-rooted social inequality and the structures of capitalism.
I can see a PYQ linkage here. In the source material, there's a quote. An essential condition to eradicate poverty is to liberate the poor from the process of deprivation.
That is a pure radical school argument. Poverty isn't just a lack of money. It's a structural process of deprivation. The argument is that someone is keeping them poor to maintain the system. If you're answering a question on poverty in GS1, citing the radical school's perspective on deprivation had serious intellectual weight. It shows you understand the structural causes, not just the symptoms. And the third one, the behavioral school. This one connects back to psychology. They emphasize lived experience and the perception of space. They argue that people don't act based on the actual objective world, but on how they perceive the world. And that perception is shaped by their ethnicity, race, religion, and personal experiences.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure. Think about a forest. A government planner might look at a forest and see timber resource, value $1 million. A tribal person living in that same forest might look at it and see a sacred ancestor. Their behavior toward that physical space will be totally different. The planner wants to cut it down. The tribal person wants to protect it. The behavioral school says you cannot understand the geography of that place without understanding these different perceptions.
That is profound. It explains so many conflicts over land usage and development projects.
Then finally, we hit the 1990s and what's called postmodernism.
This is where we are now. What does postmodernism say?
In simple terms, it questions grand generalizations or meta-narratives. It says there is no single theory, no Marxist theory, no capitalist theory that can explain everything everywhere. We have to emphasize the local context. Every place is different and every local voice matters.
It's like we've come full circle, from trying to find universal laws back to realizing that the world is too complex for one simple rule. It's like moving from a top 40 radio station where everyone listens to the same hits to a Spotify playlist where everyone has their own custom mix.
That is a great analogy. It is, in a sense, the democratization of geography.
Okay, that brings us to Section 5. We've established that human geography is incredibly complex. It spills over into everything else, its interdisciplinary nature. The text has this table showing how human geography interfaces with other social sciences. It's like a Venn diagram that ate the world.
It really is. And for the UPSC exam, you need to know which subfield connects to which GS paper. Let's take social geography. It connects with sociology, psychology, and anthropology.
And under that umbrella, you have subfields like gender geography, cultural geography, and historical geography.
The PYQ linkage here is very strong. The source material specifically mentions scheduled tribes and the provisions for them in the Constitution.
Right, I see it here. A question from a GS paper. Why are the tribals in India referred to as the scheduled tribes? Indicate the major provisions enshrined in the Constitution of India for their upliftment.
This is social geography meeting political science head-on. You are studying a specific human group, the tribes, that's geography, and you're studying their relationship with the state structure, the Constitution. That's political science. You can't answer that question well without understanding the social and spatial context of those tribes, their isolation, their dependence on forests, which is pure geography.
Then we have urban geography,
which interfaces with urban studies and planning.
The source material mentions the Smart City program and the quality of urban life.
It does. There's a question about introducing the objectives and strategy of the Smart City program. That is urban geography in practice.
Sure.
It's not just about building sensors and putting in Wi-Fi. It's about how people live in dense environments. It's about those arteries of circulation we talked about earlier. Are they flowing smoothly or are they clogged?
And what about political geography? This one interfaces with political science and even military science.
There is a fantastic image in the source material. A picture of the preamble of the Indian Constitution. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic.
Why is the preamble in a geography textbook?
Because the state is a geographical entity. It has borders, it has territory. Political geography studies how the state functions within that territory. In India, our political geography operates within the framework of that preamble. And then you have subfields like electoral geography, which studies how people vote in different regions.
Which connects directly to psephology, the study of elections. We see this all the time on news channels during election season. The Jat Belt voted this way, the coastal region voted that way. That is applied political geography.
Exactly.
And finally, population geography. This interfaces with demography. And we have to take a quick dip into some material from Chapter 2 here, because it's so relevant to the source documents.
Yes, the source gives us the formula for CDR, the crude death rate.
Deaths divided by the mid-year population multiplied by 1,000. It seems like just another statistic.
It's a simple formula, but with deep implications. The text says mortality is affected by demographic structure, social advancement, and levels of economic development.
So a high CDR isn't just bad luck. It's a direct indicator of poor social advancement. It's a measure of the overall health of the society.
And then there's migration, the classic push factors versus pull factors.
This is intuitive, but so essential. Push factors drive you away from a place: unemployment, war, famine, political instability. Pull factors attract you to a place: jobs, peace, better living conditions, stability.
Let's go back to Kerry in Trondheim. The pull of a high standard of living, great infrastructure, and a good job keeps her there despite the powerful push of the terrible weather. Technology allows the pull factors to win over the push factors.
That's an excellent application. Okay, section 6. We have a few minutes left, and I want to really cement this for the listeners. Let's apply this knowledge to some more source-based scenarios. These are direct questions from the provided PDFs.
Let's look at the concept of ecological niche.
The question asks, which term describes not only the physical space occupied by an organism, but also its functional role in the community of organisms?
And the answer is ecological niche. Think of it this way. A habitat is your address. It's where you live. For example, 221B Baker Street. An ecological niche is your profession. Consulting detective.
So my apartment is my habitat, but podcaster is my niche. It describes what I do.
In a way, yes. It encompasses what you eat, who you interact with, your role in the ecosystem. It shows how geography overlaps directly with ecology and environment. It's not just about space, it's about function within that space.
Okay, last one. What about regionalism? There's a question here. What is the basis of regionalism? Is it that unequal distribution of benefits of development on a regional basis eventually promotes regionalism?
This connects right back to the areal differentiation phase we talked about. Why do regions differ? Imagine India. If the western states have all the factories, ports, and foreign investment, and the eastern states have very little, the people in the east will start to feel a strong sense of regionalism. They'll feel distinct and, more importantly, aggrieved.
So unequal development is the fuel for the fire of regionalism.
Yes. Geography explains the root cause of the political conflict. If you understand the spatial distribution of resources and development, which is geography, you can understand the political anger and movements that arise from it, which is politics. A student writing an answer on regionalism in GS1 must mention this economic and spatial disparity. You can't just say people are emotional. You have to explain the material basis of that emotion.
That is a gold nugget for answer writing. Don't just describe the problem, explain the geographical root cause. Wow. We have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've gone from traffic lights to tribal rights, from cavemen to smart cities, from the arrogance of man-conquering nature to the humility of sustainable development.
It is a massive subject,
Yeah.
but if you can see the thread running through it, the thread of the changing dynamic relationship between humans and the earth, it all starts to make sense.
So let's wrap this up. What is the big takeaway here? The final summary.
The summary is this. We started by fearing nature, a state of determinism. We then moved to thinking we could conquer nature, a state of possibilism. And we finally ended up realizing we need a traffic light, a state of neo-determinism. We need that little path.
And we saw the subject itself evolve from colonial looting to quantitative number crunching to a much more human, nuanced, postmodern understanding.
And the so what, for the UPSC aspirant, is the most crucial part. Every single paper you write, whether it is GS1 on society and geography, GS3 on environment and disaster management, or even your essay, requires this balanced neo-deterministic view.
You can't just be pro-development and say, drill, baby, drill. That's possibilism gone wrong, and it leads to crashes.
And you can't be purely anti-development and say, let's go back to the caves. That's a form of determinism that isn't practical.
You have to land on sustainable development, neo-determinism.
You must respect the red light while striving for the green. That is the administrative mindset that UPSC is looking for. They want officers who can build roads without causing landslides, who can develop cities without destroying rivers.
That is the winning strategy. Okay, folks, we are at the end of this journey. If this deep dive helped you clarify these concepts, if that traffic light metaphor is now stuck in your head forever, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more aspirants just like you.
And don't forget to join the Telegram channel for the free notes and those PYQs we discussed. You need to practice writing these answers. Reading isn't enough.
And for the really serious learners, DM us to join the private library. That's where the premium content and those model answers live. And of course, your support on Patreon helps keep the lights on, pun absolutely intended.
Before we go, I just want to leave you with one final thought. The source material mentions Annie Besant and the Home Rule movement.
Annie Besant, a freedom fighter, a legend. Why is she relevant here?
Because geography isn't just about land. It's about the people on that land demanding their rights. As we look at smart cities and tribal rights today, ask yourself, are we creating a landscape that respects the red light of nature? And just as importantly, are we creating a landscape that respects the rights of the people living on it?
Or are we just speeding toward the next crash?
That is the question.
Something to mull over. We will see you in the next deep dive.
Goodbye and keep learning.